Hey guys, and welcome back. Simon here bringing you another MTG product video. Well, it's finally here. We knew it was coming, but we didn't know how they would present it, you know? I was really hoping to get on board with Wizards on this one, but alas, snuffed again. I'm of course talking about Magic's latest From the Vault set, a theme which is near and dear to my heart, From the Vault lore. I was really hoping I'd get the opportunity to unveil or at least preview some of the cards included in this special edition of FTV, but oh well, maybe next time. As for this video, I'm not going to be doing a sweeping generalization of the cards in a is it worth it type video. Other channels already do that much better than I can. Rather, I'll be taking a look at each of the cards in FTV lore and explaining their backstories, trying to understand why they're featured in this story-centric set. First, we have Beseech the Queen, a card originally from Shadowmoor depicting a great figure involved in that story arc, Una, Queen of the Fae. She was the main antagonist of the block, having manipulated the event known as the Great Aurora. The Great Aurora is what shifts Lorwyn to its dark counterpart, Shadowmoor, and vice versa. Una keeps control over these cycles in order to retain her seat of power in both versions of the plane. Una is one of the few denizens who actually keeps their memory of the previous world as it transitions. Although she is a fairy, Una is more of a being of magic than a sprite. Her powers and prowess with magic elevate her to a level uncontested on Lorwyn. She only falls through a series of blunders of her own making. As a card, the art in the original Beseech the Queen, which carries on to the FTV version, is beautiful in its depiction of Una in all her magical glory. Although, I would have liked new art to showcase her involvement with the Great Aurora, which actually Nissa Ravain experienced in her updated origin story, but it still does a good job in conveying the story of the block. Conflux, a card from the set of the same name. This card perfectly represents the main event taking place in this block, that being the reunion of the shards of Alara back into a single plane. Alara was broken countless eons ago by an unnamed powerful being, separating it into 5 shards, each with access to only 3 types of mana: Bant, Esper, Grixis, Naya, and Jund. The ancient, malicious dragon planeswalker Nicol plotted to reform Alara from these shards in order to siphon off the pool of mana it would cause at the center of the Conflux. In doing so, Nicol hoped to regain much of the power he had lost as a planeswalker thanks to the effects of the mending. The story ended with the dragon's defeat, but not before his plan was set in unstoppable motion. Alara was formed, and in its wake came chaos and war between the vastly different shards. Conflux itself is a perfect card showcasing this block's story, and the moment when many worlds became one. The Hellvolt, a legendary artifact from the original Innistrad block. This silver pillar has seen a lot of interesting plots in its days, even up to our recent return to the plane in SOI and Eldritch Moon. The vampire planeswalker and lord of Innistrad, Sorin Markov, created the Hellvault from the silver of the plane's moon. It was made in response to his trapping of the Eldrazi Titans on Zendikar. He figured he needed a failsafe for his own cherished world should anything come looking for trouble. Along with the Hellvault, he made the Archangel Avacyn, a 2-part security measure. The Hellvault went on to trap everything from demons, including one of Liliana's demon lords, Griselbrand, to Nahiri, a former planeswalking friend of Sorin's, who went on to summon Emrakul to Innistrad. The Hellvault was eventually destroyed thanks to Liliana Vest, who was searching for Griselbrand in order to free her from his bargain. In releasing the demon, she also unwittingly released Avacyn herself, who had become trapped after a fight with Griselbrand. Light was restored to Innistrad. That was until the events that cast a shadow over the world once again. Honestly, this card's a little boring for my tastes. I think other cards could have been used to showcase the story of Innistrad. Maybe Griselbrand, for example. At least they could have given the card new art. But yeah, not my favorite card in the set. Unmask. This one I needed to do some extra research on. I had no idea what it represented. This one dates back to the story of the skyship Weatherlight and its crew as they traveled to a number of different planes over the course of several blocks. Unmask's story takes place on the world of Mercadia after the ship crash-landed and found the crew stuck between the hostile conflict. What the crew didn't know was that there was a traitor among their ranks. Prior to their trip to Mercadia, the heroes of Dominaria were entrenched in the invasion of the Phyrexians of Wrath. Their leader, a shapeshifter named Volrath, led the assault but was ultimately defeated. However, before giving up, he kidnapped 2 members of the Weatherlight crew, Takara and its captain, Sisay, knowing its heroes would mount a rescue. As they confronted Volrath, he appeared to be defeated and killed, not knowing that he had actually shapeshifted into Takara before this encounter. From there, he stowed away on the Weatherlight, and sowed the seeds of civil upheaval among the crew of the ship before finally revealing himself in the art of Unmask. It's a powerful image of deceit and treachery, a great card for FTV lore. Mind's Desire, a card originally from Scourge, now depicts a clear image of an ancient and powerful artifact known as the Murari. This orb was used throughout the multiverse as a wish-granting device, an object that could literally make any desire possible, with a catch of course. Those who use the Murari are destined to find nothing but ruin and despair along with their wishes. The orb is cursed, and it twists the lives of all those tempted to use it. The magical chaos emitted from this artifact had disrupted Dominaria for years, vastly changing both geographical and political structures of the plane. Eventually, it, along with other powerful artifacts, were entrusted to Karn, the first artificial planeswalker. He spared Dominaria from its destructive force when he left with it to his own self-made plane of Argentum. This new art is absolutely beautiful, much less confusing than its original. Although, if they wanted to depict the Murari, why didn't they just reprint the Murari's actual card from Odyssey? The Murari of Mind's Desire transitions perfectly to our next card, Memnarch, one of my all-time favorites from Dark Steel. In the Mirrodin storyline, Memnarch acted as the main antagonist. He was a construct created by Karn to guard his plane of Argentum. His core was made from the Murari itself. As Karn traveled the multiverse, Memnarch watched over his metal world and grew jealous of its master's abilities. With the stain of the phyrexian oil slowly taking hold over the machine, its evil plans took root. Memnarch renamed the plane to Mirrodin and locked out its former master. It then began portaling in species from across the multiverse, bringing life to the once artificial plane. He hoped that, over the years, one of these beings would get a planeswalker spark that he could harvest for his own use. As the creatures evolved, flesh melded with metal, creating an ecosystem unique to Mirrodin. Eventually, an elf with the spark came to be, and Memnarch killed everyone who stood between him and his greatest desire. Eventually, he was finally defeated by that very elf named Glissa Sunseeker. This is a card I really wanted to see some new art for. It's not bad as is, but I just thought it would be so cool to see one of my favorite cards get some new art. Again, Memnarch leads us to another card from FTV lore, Glissa the Traitor. Glissa Sunseeker, as stated before, was the one who bore a planeswalker spark and the object of Memnarch's obsession. In its wake, the tyrannical machine killed all those who Glissa loved, causing her to lash back in vengeance. With a group of rebels looking to overthrow the corrupted Memnarch, Glissa got her wish when she pushed the golem into the core of Mirrodin. When she returned, however, those who she fought for ultimately blamed her for all the trouble that took place. Ostracized, Glissa fell into despair and isolation as the phyrexian influence slowly grew on the world. The oil eventually corrupted most life on Mirrodin, which went on to be known as New Phyrexia. The lost hero Glissa was no exception. She now fights as an agent of Phyrexia, serving as the champion of the Lord Vorinclex. It's a sad story of heroism and betrayal, one that's forever idealized in this card. Near-Death Experience, an interesting card that shows just how tough Gideon Jura really is. Back during the set this card was introduced in, Rise of the Eldrazi were, well, rising. After centuries of being locked away thanks to the efforts of Nahiri, Sorin, and Ugin, the Titans began to stir under their prison, the Mountain of Akum. At this point, the three Titans weren't fully released, yet their influence still slipped through the cracks in the form of their broodlings. Even without the Titans themselves, these smaller versions almost proved too much for Zendikar, being stopped short thanks to the efforts of an exhausted Gideon Jura. This battle, which left countless dead and hope seemingly out of reach, is brilliantly captured in the art of Near-Death Experience. Shortly after this occurred, Gideon found himself face to face with one of the true Titans after they fully escaped. Standing in their impossible presence is what spurred Gideon to find help and eventually kicked off the story of Battle for Zendikar. Tellurian West. Now this is a card that I don't really agree with being set at a mythic level, even if it is for From the Vault. Anyway, Tellurian West is the parent company to the now famous YouTube channel Tellurian Community College. I kid, of course. No, actually, Tellurian West is the premier school of magic on the plane of Dominaria. Think of it as the Hogwarts of Magic the Gathering. Several famous mages have come to this academy to learn the finer art of spellcrafting, but Tellurian West wasn't the first institution of its type. The original Tellurian Academy was completely destroyed thanks to a grieving mage. It wasn't until 300 years after the Phyrexian invasion that Tellurian West was founded in its absence. While the school itself has played a pivotal role in the scenery of MTG, especially on Dominaria, I'm not so sure I like it here as a card for FTV lore. I don't know, just doesn't feel monumental enough to any single story plotline other than being a place of interest. And Tellurian West segues me nicely to our next card, Obliterate. Remember when I told you about the original Tellurian Academy being blown up by a grieving mage? Well, this card actually captures that exact moment. The mage in question is known as Baron, a famous wizard who's done a lot in terms of MTG lore. For as many adventures as he undertook in his lifetime, Baron always stayed true to the teachings of his beloved Telluria. He even went on to become the headmaster at the original school. He was basically the Dumbledore of MTG, and just as humble. But everyone has their limits, even Baron. During the Phyrexian invasion, he lost his wife as she went into battle, and his daughter soon after to an aggressive Phyrexian disease. Distraught, Baron tried to find comfort in the halls of the Tellurian Academy, but he found the school full of Phyrexian agents. In a fit of despair, he cast a forbidden spell that leveled the entire island which housed the famous school. Total and utter obliteration. It was a powerful moment of a man pushed to his end and forced to destroy something he loved. For that alone, I cannot agree more with its inclusion in FTV lore. Now here's a nice one, Dark Depths. A land that produces no land, but hides something much more interesting. A token by the name of Merit Lodge. Sporting the highest base attack and toughness in the game, Merit Lodge is as fun to summon as it is mysterious. It's some type of cosmic, tentacled being who became trapped in ice on Dominaria for an unknown amount of years. During the story of the Cold Snap set, the Ice Age was coming to an end and the snow started to melt, revealing secrets that should have remained hidden for all time. To many, Merit Lodge is theorized to be an Eldrazi Titan, and it certainly fits the bill. It came from another world, it's insanely large and powerful, it's cosmic in nature, it has powers that awake in its sleep, and it has freaking tentacles. Come on, this thing's an Eldrazi. But of course, the buzzkills at Wizards decided to officially say it's not. But come on, we all know it is. Anyway, this token has been a point of contention for years now. The mystery alone allotted a spot in this special set, although it wasn't really influential to any storyline itself. Next we have MoMir Vig, a throwback to the original Ravnica block. He was the guild leader for the Simic Combine, a faction within Ravnica which sought to preserve the dwindling natural life forms in the giant city plane, heal and find cures for diseases, and ensure everyone had plenty to eat. When this wizard elf came to power within the Simic, he changed their focus from preserving life to improving it. He and his council practiced strange experiments in evolution on creatures of all different sizes, splitting and combining as he saw fit. Eventually, he discovered a solution that would improve the biological makeup of all citizens in Ravnica, but few outside of the Simic Order seemed willing to be experimented on. Although he set loose his perfectifying goo on Ravnica without consent, he still felt like the plane needed a fresh start. He worked on the notorious Project Kraj, which he hoped would level the entire city so they could start anew. But his plan failed and he was killed. Although MoMir is no more, the Simic have taken his lessons to heart, and now continue to advance life, not just sustain it. The new art for this card is amazing, especially when compared to the dated original, A+ on that. Cabal Ritual, a card I'm personally fond of. This card depicts the rites required for one to join the infamous Cabal, which was a shadowy group of fanatics and demon worshippers. The Cabal's influence in the story spread far, and this black-aligned organization seemed to have their fingers in everyone's pie. Cabal Ritual, which was printed in the Torment set, has gotten some new art and flavor text which I really enjoy. The flavor text mentions someone known as the Patriarch, who was in fact the leader of the Cabal for many years. He was seen as immortal, although his vast age showed in his appearance, but he managed to keep going thanks to his own personal dark magic. Up until his death, the Cabal viewed this man as their absolute leader, and even today, it seems they whisper his name as a sign of respect for his evil deeds. Phyrexian Processor, a very flavorful card and great addition to the set. Yawgmoth created this race of troublemakers in his pursuit to perfect all living things in the multiverse. As he fused metal and flesh with magic, his message to his followers rang clear: assimilate the entire multiverse. Yawgmoth eventually was proven to be more mortal than he had let on, falling at great cost in the invasion of Dominaria. Yet, even without their ultimate master, the Phyrexian still thrived and carried on his final commands. The agents of Phyrexia plague the multiverse, transforming all they come into contact with, perfecting them. These processors are their main tool in achieving this goal. While the feared Phyrexian oil slowly corrupts from the inside out, these bad boys pump out perfect Phyrexians at the simple cost of an unwilling host. Personally, I would have loved seeing something like Urbog, Tomb of Yawgmoth, to showcase the Phyrexian's endless campaign of corruption, but we're stuck with Phyrexian Processor. And finally, we have a card I can never pronounce correctly, Umezawa JIT. Sure, let's go with that. Anyway, this is the weapon of a rogue samurai named Toshiro. During the events of the unique Kamigawa block, he went on a lifelong journey that found him jumping to different sides of the justice system. He would go on to prove a crucial role in the Kami War, the main event of the Kamigawa block, where mortals fought gods and vice versa. Using his special blade, Toshiro was capable of melding in and out of the shadows which lay between the worlds of gods and mortals, allowing him the chance to influence the war's outcome. His tale doesn't come to a storybook ending, however. His sight was taken from him, and he was transported by a god to the plane of Dominaria, where he lived out the rest of his days. As a card, it's another example of why didn't they just print the literal version? I mean, Toshiro Umezawa was an actual creature from Betrayers of Kamigawa. I, for one, would have preferred the card Final Judgment in showcasing the story of Kamigawa. It shows the God of God, Okagachi, breaking the veil between his world and the world of mortals in his final attempt to win the Kami War. Just a more impactful moment to me, I guess. Anyway, that's all of them, guys. All 15 cards featured in the upcoming From the Vault lore set. Most of the cards here I'm pretty happy with. Others, well, I would have chosen differently, but I'm still not completely upset by it. But what about you guys? What do you think about the cards in FTV lore? Would you have picked anything different for key lore moments in MTG? Let me know in the comments below. As always guys, if you enjoyed the video, consider throwing it a like, sharing it with friends, and subbing to the channel. It all helps out a great deal. In any case, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.